Morning, Sec 1. So we're going to move on from the previous lesson, talking about the Dutch and Portuguese presence in Southeast Asia in the 15th to 17th centuries. And today, if you look at the slide, the first slide says the Dutch and the British presence in Southeast Asia. And we're going to move on to the next time period, which is the 18th and 19th centuries. Alright, so before we start, here are some lesson objectives. Okay, we're first going to learn the reasons behind the British EIC and the Dutch VOC in the 18th to 19th centuries. Yeah, I'll explain the terms later. And we're also going to identify the reasons for the British presence in Southeast Asia. Okay, just take note that for this lesson, please refer to Contents Package, page 17, worksheet 10. Okay, you're going to fill in the blanks and I'm going to break down to you the terms and everything on what the British EIC and the Dutch VOC actually is and the reasons for British presence. Okay, so let's do a quick recap first. What is colonization? I think all of you should have known this except those who were away. Okay, colonization, just to recap, the meaning is to send settlers to a place or a country and establish political power and control over it. So basically, it's just saying that another country, another European country or any other country is taking over another country and they must establish their power and control over it. Okay, these were the different colonial powers that we went through. The first one was the British. Okay, the second one is Portuguese. The third one is France. Fourth is Spain. Okay, and the last one is the Dutch or Netherlands. Okay, so as we talked about in the first two slides, we are only going to focus on the Dutch and the British today. So if you see on this slide, there's a British and Dutch flag here. Okay, and we're going to move on and talk specifically about trade and how the British and Dutch conducted trade during their time in Southeast Asia and the countries around here. So when they carried out colonialism in other countries, the British and the Dutch established trading companies for better trade with their colonies. So what are these trading companies? Later on I will brief you through it. Okay, but basically these trading companies, how did they conduct trade? They used maritime trade, which is also known as trade using the sea. And how did they use or how did they conduct this trade? How did they do it? They used the ships. Okay, so as we go along and talk about these two trading companies, we will be focusing a lot on using of ships, okay, and how they actually came to certain parts all the way from Europe, certain parts of Southeast Asia to conduct their trade. Alright, so like what was mentioned at the start also, what's VOC and EIC? Okay, so basically the VOC is another term for the Dutch East India Company. Okay, and if you look on the right, you see the coins, the VOC coins in 1734. Okay, I'll tell you more about this later on, but you can see very clearly that the coins represent the VOC because of the symbols there, VOC, right? Okay, and the next one, the British East India Company, okay, also known as the EIC. Okay, and if you look at the coins, it also says there, East India Company, if you can see clearly on the top. So why were the coins so important, especially for trade? Okay, so many of you know that trade. How do they conduct trade? Besides exchanging of goods from one to the other, they also use coins to pay for the goods that they want to purchase. So these coins are very significant to show the VOC and the EIC's presence in Southeast Asia and how were they actually used between the trade of the colonial powers and the people in Southeast Asia. Alright, so the coins are significant and it's also in your worksheet. Okay, so I'm going to go to the first one, the Dutch East India Company. Okay, so it was established in 1602. Okay, these are all in your notes already, but I just need you to add in the red or brown words later on. Okay, so number one is established in 1602, basically the 17th century. Okay, it served the interests of the Netherlands overseas. So the Dutch government is the one that instituted or created and established this trading company. Why? To serve the purpose of trade. Okay. The next one, the VOC was crucial in helping the Netherlands negotiate treaties and establish colonies overseas. So besides the government actually doing the work, the VOC as a trading company, when they conducted trade with other countries, they were actually also trying to extend their influence and establish their colonies overseas. Most significantly, it set out to explore parts of Asia to find a key trading item, spices. So if you recall, why did the Dutch and Portuguese actually come to Southeast Asia first? Do you remember about the spice trade? Why? Because in Southeast Asia, it was very known and spices were very popular to be grown in this area. So the Dutch East India Company, the VOC, came to parts of Asia to find spices. That's the key reason why they wanted to come to this area. Okay, and finally it ceased to exist in 1799. So if you realize by the 18th century, the last part of the 18th century, it was ceased to exist. Alright. Okay, here are some photos for the Dutch East India Company. Okay, if you notice the first photo, you can see the clear illustration of the Dutch VOC ship, okay, as seen by the flag, right? And what else do you notice about the ship? I want you to think about it. Okay, another photo, this is when the Dutch VOC ships were built so that these trading companies, okay, and these ships can actually go to Asia and start trading over there. Alright, so at the same time that the Dutch had their own trading company, the British also had their own, also known as the EIC. So it was set up in 1600, okay, 17th century as well, and it was formed for the exploitation of trade with East and Southeast Asia and also India. Okay, so East and Southeast Asia. Asia are countries known as China, Japan, okay, Southeast Asia you will know, and also India. So this meant that only these traders could trade in these areas. Same as where the Dutch traded, the Dutch wouldn't allow the British to trade in the areas. So the British, where they wanted to trade, they only allowed their own traders to trade there. Okay, so this part in brown, can you please write it down in your package, the page that we said just now, okay, contents package. So it set out to participate in the East Indian spice trade, and items such as cotton, silk, tea, opium, and also participated in the slave trade. Okay, so they were looking out for spices and other items and slave trade. Right, slave trade, we will come to that, but basically it's a trading of slaves. Okay, and it also kick-started British colonialism in India. So if you know, okay, besides the British colonizing us, right, Raffles, okay, the British also colonized India. And one of these motives for the EIC is basically to colonize India. Okay, so the EIC also ceased to exist eventually in 1858. Alright. Okay, so here are some photos. Let's do the one on the right first. Okay, the right, if you can see very clearly, I wanted to show you the shape of the EIC and as they approach a different land. Okay, you can see also the people and the palm trees over there. So you can tell that this was not really Britain, it was another land in Asia. Okay, and if you look on the left, you can see the clear differences between the British and how they look, and also the Indians, right, and their dressing. Okay, you can tell from the dressing that it's Indians or another race in Asia, okay, South Asia. So you can tell that how the British actually came, interacted with the Indians, okay, and established their control over India. Alright. Okay, just a fun fact about the British EIC. Actually, it was very well represented in one of the popular movies of all time, The Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay, so if you wish to, you can actually watch the whole movie as a break for you. But it illustrates the British EIC's fight against the pirates. Okay, and it's actually quite true because when the British EIC was traveling from Europe to Asia, they will definitely face a lot of piracy and a lot of people trying to take away and steal their goods. Alright, of course, it's not as true as what Pirates of the Caribbean actually portray, like the characters from the sea, etc. But the interactions between the pirates and the British EIC and how they actually not only traded but they had to fight against the pirate, all the pirates that were there. You can actually observe from the video that is shown. Alright, so the link will be available to you. I will put it with this slide. Okay, so you just click on the link and watch this short clip. Okay? Okay, now we are going to zoom in straight into the British. Okay, and why the British were interested in Southeast Asia. So right now, okay, if you recall, after the Portuguese has taken over Singapore's territory, the next colonial power that managed to fight and win against the Portuguese were the Dutch, right? Okay, if you recall from the previous lesson. Next, after the Dutch, it goes straight to the British. But we need to first figure out, before Singapore was even colonized by the British, we need to find out why Britain was so interested in Southeast Asia. Okay, besides the spices and everything, there were also other reasons why they really wanted to focus on Southeast Asia. Okay, so just a reminder, make sure you fill in the blanks on your contents package, page 17. Okay, what you see on this slide is the old map, okay, of Southeast Asia from India, okay, and also Siam is the old name for Thailand, Sumatra, part of Indonesia, Borneo, etc. Okay, so why did Britain want control over these parts? Okay, that's a question that you need to think. Okay, number one, it was due to the importance of the India-China trade. Okay, you must always remember that Southeast Asia, okay, was located between India and China, right? And India and China were known to be producing a lot of valuable goods, okay, and items that many countries from Europe actually wanted to be part of this trade because it was profitable. They could conduct better business and basically they can earn more money. All right, so the first point, okay, please write down or fill in the blanks in red. The British EIC depended on the India-China trade because it was the major source of income. So like what I said just now, India had a lot of goods that were profitable, China as well. So because of this, they wanted to be part of the trade and they wanted to earn more money. That's what the first point means. Okay, the next point, I'm going to give you an example. So for example, the EIC traded Bengali opium. Okay, it's a kind of medication. Okay, and they traded for Chinese tea and silk to the EIC. Why did they choose to trade that? Because back home in Britain, they didn't have Chinese tea and silk. So it was very valuable and they wanted to trade that with China. Okay, now the next point, if they control the Straits of Malacca and Singapore, it would definitely ensure the protection of the lucrative India-China trade. Okay, so many colonial powers actually love to control Singapore, and if you draw links back to Temasik's time, why? Because Singapore was a strategic location. So this location will not change, right? So that's why it was so profitable, because their control could ensure that they will gain benefits from the India-China trade. Okay, and the last thing is because they wanted to remove the competition, the Dutch competition and the Dutch control, right? It is in competition against them, they want to remove them. Okay, so if you look at the map on the right, look at the red marks, those are the many routes that people can take from India to China. Where did they have to pass? Definitely Singapore. Definitely Southeast Asia, not only Singapore, right? So that's why the British wanted to control the area. If they can control the area, then they can just easily trade with ease. They don't need to ask for permission to go into the waters or the sea of the other people who control them. Alright, so please understand this. Okay, the second reason again has to do with the Dutch. They wanted to break the Dutch monopoly on spice trade. Okay, what do I mean by that? First, I need to break down the term monopoly. Okay, monopoly means if I'm monopolizing over the other, I want to have complete control of something so that others have no share. Okay, so if the British wants to break the Dutch monopoly, means that they want to make sure that the Dutch doesn't have complete control so that they, the British, can have the share over the spice trade. Okay, because of its profits. Now, number one, the spices were seen as a sign of wealth and were valuable in high demand. Okay, because spices, again, it was never seen in Europe. Okay, not never, but rarely seen the different kinds of spices. So, for example, star anise, you cannot find it in Europe. Okay, and there were many others. Pepper also, certain kinds of pepper cannot be found there. Okay, so basically, money and wealth were the key reason why they wanted to break the Dutch monopoly. Okay, the next one. Since the Dutch VOC controlled the spice trade, it prevented the EIC from gaining a share. Okay, and the Dutch placed heavy taxes on ships calling at ports like Batavia, which made trading difficult for the British. Actually, Batavia is the current name called Jakarta. Okay, so if the Dutch place heavy taxes on ships, that means the ships have to pay extra money to go to these ports like Jakarta or Batavia to get the spices. Would the British benefit? Definitely no, because they cannot just trade and get the spices without having to pay a cost. Okay, so please add this in the second part. Okay, so the British, why did they want to break the Dutch monopoly? They wanted to break it so that they can also gain a share of the spice trade, so that they can also gain profits, okay, and wealth, become more wealthy from the spice trade. All right, the last point, the third point, okay, they would like to compete against the Dutch ports. Okay, ports again, trading ports, just take note. Okay, the British ports Penang and Bencoolen were unsuitable for profits. Okay, why? I will show you later using a map. Okay, and Bencoolen was not located along the Straits of Malacca. This Straits of Malacca was so important and so significant because of its location. Okay, and Penang was too far north and away from trading centers. Okay, so Bencoolen and Penang was not very suitable. It was not profitable for the British. So why would the British want to continue having these ports? Definitely they would not want to. So because of the Napoleonic Wars back in Europe, it was temporarily transferred. These two ports were temporarily transferred. Batavia and Malacca were transferred from the Dutch to the British. Okay, but what is so good about Batavia and Malacca? Okay, later on you'll see the map and you'll see the difference. But basically, this ensured better locations for traders to stop by along the India-China trade route. Okay, again, is for trade. So these ports, Batavia and Malacca, were super in their location, were excellent in their location. Trading could be better as well. Okay, now let's look at the map on the next two slides. Okay, so that you get a better understanding. Okay, so if you look at the orange part, okay, Penang is there. This is a very old map, so the spelling is a bit different. Okay, Penang is on top, right, of Malaysia. Whereas Bencoolen or Bengkulu, okay, was at the bottom of Sumatra. Okay, and is at the bottom of Indonesia. Okay, so if a country is coming from India, okay, and wants to go towards China on the top here, okay, is which route is shorter? I always tell you this, okay, over here to up, or from here, India, down, and then maybe cut through here or go all the way around Indonesia to go back up. It's definitely going to be the first one, which Penang is, okay, and then they will go up. Okay, so Penang is a bit better than Bengkulu, okay, or Bencoolen, but it is still too far on the top, okay. What is better is these areas here. So you can see Malacca and Singapore is still the best areas, okay. Then if you go to the next slide, okay, I added on these two parts. So if Penang and Bencoolen is here, okay, but later on the Dutch transferred Batavia and Malacca. Batavia, Jakarta here, and then Malacca is here, and gave them to the British. If I compare the green to the orange, again, you see, it is so much better. Okay, and also here. If they want to go down here, trade a bit, and then go up here, another street to pass through. The green ones is so much better. Alright, so please look at the maps and then you will understand why they wanted to compete against the Dutch ports and why the transferring of Batavia and Malacca was better than Penang and Bencoolen. Okay?